Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we have Kevin Whinnery. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Jason. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. I got this capybara sweater that is
I
bringing
was
me a
gonna
lot of
comment
joy.
earlier, like that's top tier. That is a
I
very solid sweater.
so there's a little bit of a backstory to this because this is the third one of these sweaters that I bought. So I bought one for myself, and my partner
Awesome.
immediately stole it. So I bought
Mm.
her one that was her size, and then she wouldn't give me back the one that I bought originally because she was like, "No, it's bigger, it's comfortable."
It's like,
So
no, I'm
this is the
also
one I
keeping this
bought
one.
this one, and I have to guard this carefully.
So it just stays like in a drawer. I can see it. Like I don't blame your partner for like sniping both. It's pretty solid.
I it's
Pretty
it
solid.
is it is definitely a great it's a great sweater. Um, Probably not what we should spend our time talking about. Let's talk a little bit about you. So Kevin,
Mm.
before we jump into the rest of the show, let's get a bit of a background. Who are you? What do you do? What's your deal?
Yeah, right on. So I'm I work at a company called Retool, and I'm the head of the developer experience team there. So we do developer advocacy, developer interfaces, our documentation, kind of all the sort of developer facing bits of the Retool platform. Our team is pretty involved in, and I've been kind of doing developer tools for a while. I've been at Retool for about 6 months, but before that, I spent about 10 years at a company called Twilio, where we made some APIs for text messages, phone calls, and that kind of thing. Kind of doing similar stuff. I was the maintainer and writer of our like Node.js like helper library for Twilio. Made sort of a dorky little video game called Twilio Quest that kind of helped people learn Twilio. So
Wait, you
yeah,
were
just have
behind
been kind
Twilio
of
Quest?
that's my baby, man.
Oh,
It was
that's
yeah, it was
such a
super fun
fun
to work on.
thing. I had some of your team or your I guess your former team on the show, and we built a bit of a quest. It was really fun.
Oh, sweet! I can't believe
Yeah.
I missed out on that. Yeah. Yeah, right on. But yeah, so JavaScript developer, have been kind of in developer tools for a while, and coming to you live from the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. So I've been there for a very long time.
Very, very cool. I get out to Minneapolis every once in a while for front end masters, and I've actually got one
Ah,
coming up
yes.
in May, I believe. And it's always a good time. I do like that city. I feel like it's one of the strangest cities I've ever been to because I feel like it's the only city where somebody says, "Hey, do you want to walk to this restaurant 3 blocks away?" And you say, "Yeah, sure," and then they start going upstairs.
Yeah, that is true. It's a very different vibe. Like the Skyway system is a necessity for survival. Climate
Right.
change is making Minneapolis a lot more walkable than it used to be, but
Mm.
the Skyway is still pretty handy for those instances.
Definitely, and for folks who have no idea what we're talking about, Minneapolis is like all the buildings in downtown Minneapolis are connected by this series of elevated walkways. So there's like tunnels between all the buildings, and so to go next door, you like walk upstairs and then through the building and then across the street in a tunnel and into the next building because it's really freaking cold and snowy for a lot of the year in
A
Minneapolis.
lot of the year, yes. Indeed.
But it's
Yeah,
wild.
we're
It's a
within that,
very
like,
interesting
7-month
experience.
period right now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How much snow do you
Yeah,
have
right
on the
now.
ground right now?
Oh gosh, probably, 3 or 4 feet in most, like, places. We've had, like, a big chunk of, like, a few storms in a row, so,
That's too
definitely
many
piled
feet.
up a little bit. That is a lot of feet. That is a lot of feet. Like, at the edge of the driveway, it's, like, up to, like, 5 or 6 feet, so, like, you can't really see over without getting up on your tiptoes, so
Mm.
it's no joke.
Not for me. I grew up in Montana, and
It's gonna
it
be a
was
no from Jason.
a significant factor in my decision to come to Portland was that there is not a lot of snow here. Um,
Yeah, that is fair,
Excellent. Yeah.
for
All
sure.
right. Cool. Okay. So right as we were starting up, Wild Lucky asked a great question, which is, what is an internal app? And I think that is going to be important context for everything else we talk about for the rest of today. So
Indeed.
why don't we just jump right in and start there?
Yes, for sure. So an internal app, it can be a lot of different things, but I imagine that if you think about like the company you work at now, um, chances are good that there's like software that like just your company uses, like whether it's to like set up promo codes for your marketing, or like maybe there's a support dashboard that like the, folks can go in and suspend and unsuspend accounts or apply credits. A lot of companies and a lot of like teams just have like backend software
Hmm.
that is like very specific to just the stuff that their business does. And that's kind of what we mean by like internal software or internal tools. It's software
Right.
that is made not for a huge broad audience, but for a very specific audience of folks that you work with that do a very specific job. So that's kind of what we mean by that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that is, I think, one of the like, it's a common, at least in every company I've worked in, there is a team of people whose entire job is building these like internal dashboards. And that
For
can
sure. That gets,
range
yeah.
from like I am the person who builds amplitude dashboards or like Google Analytics reports or using other tooling and kind of building custom views. But for example, in Netlify we have or we had when I was there a collection of like specific dashboards for being able to do customer support, for being able to, if there was an incident, we needed to be able to replay different requests and figure out what had happened. And all of that
Hmm.
requires just, at the beginning, I think they were using like these very complicated like database commands to try to go through and figure out what had happened, and it was all done in a terminal. And you can't onboard anybody into that, and it's risky to try to run terminal commands when you don't have people who know.
Hmm.
If you're copy pasting a terminal command, it's a lot of like, hope this works. And
Yeah, that's
so
true.
having
There's a lot of
in
like,
go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of like YOLOing, like SQL queries against like the production database to figure out like what thing went sideways. So yeah, having like giving people that power or expecting people to have that power in order to do like troubleshooting and customer support is not always a super smart idea.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's one of those things that's like it's perfectly fine until it's not. And so what a
Mhm.
lot of companies have started doing is investing in building internal apps that you get to choose what somebody should or should not be able to do as part of the support team or as part of the SRE team or whatever it is. Because, for example, I might need to access a customer's account, but I should never be able to see a customer's credit card information, right? And
Mhm.
if you don't have a sophisticated internal app, then you're just like you just have to have a small, very small group of people that you trust and that will take the blame if there's a data breach. And I think a lot of startups start that way, but like as you scale, it doesn't work. You can't have one person in the company
Mhm.
who keeps all the data. So an internal app becomes really the only solution for any company above a certain size or a certain complexity because you just, you cannot have customer data like leaking, like floating around your company. It's a legal nightmare. It's a security nightmare. And it's also just not like that is a high stress thing to be doing when you're looking at somebody's data that you shouldn't be seeing. Um,
Oh yeah.
so, you
Yeah,
know,
for sure. And like and how like, data should be exposed to different people in your company is usually like pretty custom to whatever domain you're
mhm,
working in or like however your team works together. So like having a software layer that you can have like pretty granular control over, all right, this group of humans can kind of do these actions, and you can kind of encode those workflows in software.
right.
Definitely like makes it safer, and also just like saves a lot of time. So you don't have to like ask an engineer to run a one-off script or like run a report for you, or those types of things too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that is a kind of it's a big deal that it's a lot of like what feels like invisible work, right? And
Mhm.
there are a lot of ways that you can solve this. What I've seen a lot of companies do is dedicate entire engineering teams to building custom internal software, but you got to be a pretty big company to be able to afford two or three engineers full time working on internal tools. So what I've seen a lot of companies start with is they're like, "Oh, well, you'll build a custom tool and somebody can, they can manage a sprint." Then they never maintain it again. So it gets increasingly jankier and increasingly harder to deal with.
Yep.
Um, but there is a better way. And so we're going to be talking today about Retool, which is where you're working. Retool was also kind enough to sponsor this video. So thank you, Retool, for putting some putting up a little extra to make this stuff more accessible to people. And the specific promise of Retool is that it will make it possible for me, who is not a mobile developer, to build an internal app without needing a full-time like, actually, maybe I should let you do this explanation. What is the value prop of Retool? Because I'm thinking about it in terms of what we're building today, but I don't know if that's the whole scope.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think we are specifically going to dig in and do some mobile stuff, which will be really fun. But Retool generally lets you build internal apps, whether they're sort of desktop web apps or mobile apps, like we'll hack around on today. But generally, it's an alternative approach to like maybe spinning up a new Next.js application or a Rails app or what have you, and kind of building an entire internal app stack
Mm,
yourself. You can actually use Retool to build those types of applications, that type of software, like inside of a platform that's kind of purpose built for doing those types of internal tool use cases. So it handles like your company SSO. There's a way to like set up and
mm,
configure access to multiple different data resources, which is also a pretty common thing in internal tools use cases. Most internal tools are just kind of like a mashup of like 5 or 6 different APIs and
mhm.
databases, just with like a single pane of glass on top of all of it to kind of orchestrate those things together. So
And
you can build web apps or mobile apps on top of that as well.
got it. And so when you say data sources, this can be I can hook into like my third party data, like if I wanted to pull in my analytics from whatever company we pull in, or I can hook into my custom database. Like I stood up Postgres to power my company, and I want to pull that in to build a dashboard out of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all different kinds of databases. There's kind of like built-in integrations for a lot of the most common databases.
Oh,
So,
nice.
like if you have a Postgres database, you can configure, your URL and port numbers and authentication information kind of in one spot.
Got it.
And then one thing that's kind of nice too, and would have been really nice, like at Twilio, where we had a ton of internal tools for sure, is like we have all these internal data sources and getting access sort of piecemeal to each one and like
Mm,
configuring each one is a little bit of a pain. So you can kind of set up your like universe of data sources that you're talking to, whether it's analytics APIs or databases, and then build as many apps as you want kind of on top of one or many of those
got
data
it. Okay.
sources.
Okay. So let's talk in specifics of like what this gives us the ability to do. Because I always think in terms of software because I've worked in tech companies. But that's not the only kind of business that needs an internal app. So, for example, whenever you go to a restaurant, they have a point of sale system. When you go to a library, they are checking books in and out. When you have any kind of small business, you have scheduling software and payroll software. All these things are internal apps, right? Unless you're paying a third party service to do it. And my experience at least was like when I was getting like when I was in high school and college age, I worked in a lot of restaurants, and almost all of them, their internal app was Excel.
Yes,
Right?
indeed.
But so we can build like is Retool kind of is it intended to be tech only? Is it or is this something where like if I'm a freelancer, I could use Retool to go build things for my clients that aren't necessarily in tech?
You definitely can, and that is a model that we see is like folks that maybe do like work with smaller businesses
Hmm.
will use Retool to kind of set up the software, like a software layer to handle some of the business processes that otherwise would be like in a spreadsheet
Right.
somewhere. So like one way to kind of think about Retool is it kind of sits somewhere in between like full on custom web app development, which you can actually integrate Retool with, a
Mhm.
custom web application is definitely a thing you can do. But it sits between that and like something like an Airtable or a Zapier, or like some kind of like automation system that maybe doesn't quite give you the ability to write code, but like you can
Mm,
maybe model a lot of like business processes and data in interesting ways there. Where Retool is like the next level up where you can actually define software that encodes like some of these common workflows. So definitely can be used in like the small business use cases that you're talking about,
mhm.
or yeah, just in any internal tool adjacent work. Certainly.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the specifics of what we're going to build today. So, I got a to do list before we started this episode, and it included things like setting up a camera pointing down at my desk so that we can show my phone screen. And I was also asked to get a stack of books. So
Yes.
I have this stack of books on my desk, and I have my phone standing by so that I can show things with it. And that's kind of all I know. So let's talk a little bit about what we're actually going to build today.
Yeah, let's do it. So, what we're going to try to build today is a application I am lovingly calling "Read with Jason," which is essentially just like kind of a like a library management application. So, imagine that you are running a little library. Like I don't know, maybe you even have one of those little hutches of books like out on your like boulevard. I'm sure you've seen maybe that's a Minnesota thing. I don't know,
It's very
but
common
there's
in
these.
Portland as well. Yeah.
Okay, I could see that. I could see that. So, like, maybe you have one of these little hutches of books, and you're managing a collection of them through some kind of software system. So,
Hmm.
uh, when you're working with like actual stuff in the physical world, it is sometimes useful to be able to, use mobile applications or mobile software to be able to interact with those things. Like in the case of like managing a library, one thing that would be really handy to do is to like be able to scan, a barcode on the back of a
Hmm.
book and, not have to punch in, numbers about every like piece of inventory that you're working with. So we're
That
actually going to build a little application to help manage a collection of books.
See, this is one of those things that I think is such a like I would just talk myself out of that, right? Because if I had to um build, if you told me, all right, you're going to build an app and you have to manage books, I'm going to do like a title search, right? Because
Mhm.
I know computers and I'm used to having a UI and that's my only interface. So you know, search by ISBN, sure, maybe I'd have that field, but I'm like, okay, well, ISBNs are hard. It's easy to screw up numbers. So I'm just going to have somebody search by title. But boy, would it be easier if I could just point my phone at a book and it would tell me what book it was, right? And because I usually am thinking in a desktop application kind of vibe, the idea that you can use the rest of the tools at our disposal, like a camera on your phone or like microphones or these, geolocation data of like where I am or these pieces of information are available to us. But a lot of times it's way easier to get those pieces of information if you're using a mobile app, but I don't build mobile apps. I build for the web. So I kind of just build this little shield of like, well, I guess that's not for me. But
Indeed,
today
yeah.
I get to build something that uses my phone camera.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of the idea for the mobile product is that uh, there are use cases that would be really nice to do on a mobile device, but
Hmm.
even if you use like something like a Cordova or a React Native, there's a decent amount of overhead with actually like creating and deploying software in that way.
Mm.
Even once you actually write the code to do it. So yeah, mobile specifically within Retool provides like a kind of a nice shortcut to being able to like do all the stuff that mobile apps can do without having to necessarily like figure out how to deploy to the app store or
Mm.
use a cross-platform framework directly and kind of like figure out what the idiosyncrasies are of the building apps across those different platforms. So at like there it's definitely like a trade-off. Like we'll see when we start building in a minute, it's not like you wouldn't necessarily build the next Instagram inside of Retool, but for like sort of crud apps and like business applications that are mostly concerned with data, it ends up being a really nice way to like put together one of those applications pretty quickly. So
So, so
um,
you just said something that I don't understand, and so I'm gonna dig back into it. You
please.
said you can build mobile apps without having to figure out how to publish them on the App Store.
Yes, that's right. So
Okay, how does that
the
work?
kind of so the model and this is one way that can work. You can actually like white label Retool, and if you want to like deploy your own application to the App Store, you certainly can.
Okay.
But there's actually like a Retool app in the App Store that you download, and you can sign in like with your Retool credentials.
Hmm.
And like as you build applications in Retool, you'll kind of see them show up inside this application. So it's a little bit like a launcher for like lots of little applications that you would build within Retool. So a common
Gotcha.
like usage pattern for Retool is like say that you're Walmart and you use Retool and you have built, hundreds of applications in Retool. You can have people in your company like log into Retool and kind of see all these different applications that have been built and then use them and control access to different applications that way. So there's a
Okay.
similar thing on mobile that you can just like do then like over the air updates to this mobile application, and your users just get all the functionality that you've built like within Retool.
So there's a question in the chat, like, so this is like the Expo iOS app, and from what you just
Yes,
said, I think the answer is
very similar.
yes, and because it includes some of that like access control that Expo would be more of like scan this QR code to get your app, and you're saying like, no, I can send you 15 apps and you just pick them from a list.
Yeah, it does have like a layer of like your end users are actually, able to interact with your applications through this thing where I think
Mm,
I'm not an expert on Expo, but I'm pretty sure it's more of like a development tool where you kind of like send your React Native code like to this app and then it kind of shows it. But I might be wrong though, because I was under the
I,
impression that was more for like at development time that you would use
yeah, I
that.
think I've had Expo on the show, and I don't remember exactly what the limitations are, but I believe it'll give you the ability to like get into a single app for development or for like testing, so you can like beta or alpha test. But anyways, let
Mhm.
me not guess at Expo features, and instead we got a couple questions. So
Yeah.
uh, Binajman asks, so every end user needs a Retool account just to understand the pricing model and the cost for a 50+ person company.
If you want to have folks kind of log in and use Retool apps that way, then yes, like everybody who wants to access an application does need a Retool account. There are different ways of deployment though, where you can have sort of public apps as well, and that is just like a URL that anyone can visit. You
Okay.
might even do like some custom authentication on top of that. But the sort of default mode is that like everybody like in your team has a Retool account.
Okay. All right. And so we can look a little bit at that once we actually get over into the UI. Um,
Yeah.
and then let's see. Zero Cosmos asked the same question. Jacob is asking, does it download an app in the background, or is it more of an additional web view within the main app?
Yeah, so it does kind of download apps in the background. So like with the at the risk of going too far into the sausage making, so the UI editor that we'll see in Retool in a little bit is kind of just like a really fancy JSON editor because like the entire like UI that you create is actually serialized to a JSON document that has like all of your event handlers, your UI structure, all of the stuff that is necessary to essentially recreate your application somewhere else. And
Okay.
then Retool has like a runtime component that reads that JSON file and renders your application. So there's like a runtime that interprets it. In the case of mobile, um, like Retool on the web is built using React, and on mobile it's built using React Native. So we're actually like dynamically creating a React Native application, like using those components. So it's that like
Gotcha.
JSON app definition that's kind of going across the wire that Retool then uses to sort of generate your applications for you when you view them on the device.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I think any of the other questions that I'm going to have are going to be easier shown than talked about. So why don't I put us over into pair programming mode here?
Let's do
And
it.
you can see here that we're going to start by talking about the live captioning. We've got Amanda from White Coat here today. Thank you so much, Amanda, for being here. And that is made possible through the support of our sponsors, Netlify, NX, New Relic, and Pluralsight, all kicking in to make this show more accessible to more people. Very much appreciate that. And again, we are talking today about Retool, and I'm in the wrong window, which is why that didn't do anything. Retool.com, and Retool is sponsoring this episode. So thank you very much, Retool, for doing that. We're talking today to Kevin, who is on the Twitters as Kevin Whinnery.
He
So
is.
make
Yeah.
sure
Feel free
you
to
go
come hang
and
out.
follow. All right. I believe that is everything that I know about what we're doing today. So I've got my stack of books. I've got my alternate camera angle. I've got
All right.
look at this camera angle. We're gonna be doing some screen sharing today. So I have
Oh, that's exciting. So we need phones, we need
okay.
books.
So we've got phones,
Um,
right? So I'm gonna be able to pull my phone up and do something, and then I've got
yes.
this stack of books that we will dig into when it's time.
Yeah.
And in the
Been
meantime,
meaning to pick up engineering management for the rest of us. That looks like a banger.
it is an
Um,
absolutely stellar book.
Fantastic. Well, yeah. So to get going, I think Jason, I've shared with you a specific like Retool cloud instance. It's the readwithjason.retool.com. So we are looking at it, and this is like a free account. So Retool is actually free for like 5 users. So for small teams, like smaller apps, can use kind of the whole platform without having to pony up. And there is actually a completed version of the app as well. And it might actually be useful to like just poke at that real quick and just like kind of show like the finish line, like where
Okay.
eventually we'd be
On the
getting to.
on the phone or
Well, I think we can do either one. Like let's actually do the
let's
phone.
yeah, let's do the
It might
phone.
be more
Okay. All
fun.
right. So
Yeah.
back to desktop view here. Let me get my mouse out of the way. So I have let's grab one of these books. I told my partner Marissa that I was going to be putting books on screen today, and she went and got her favorite books. So this is
Oh,
one of her
nice.
favorite books. She said that I had to show it on stream, and I've got my phone here, and I downloaded the Retool app. So let me kind of move my. So this is the Retool app.
Oh,
You can
there we
see it
go.
here. I'm gonna open this up, and oh wait, I'm like in the thing. Okay, so this is what you see when you first open it up. It's a kind of a standard native app, and then this is our library app, which is the same one that we are looking at here.
Yes. So imagine like have a set of team members that are out in the field doing work. Maybe you have like librarians or other folks that want to do this work. They use this app. They load up like one of the internal apps that you have built, and then they can select it. And you just showed like this library app that has like a list of books in it. And then, yeah, if you want to throw that in there, you can actually just drill down on any one of them individually. So if you tap one, it just shows like a cover image and a little bit of metadata about the book itself.
Hmm.
And this is actually being driven driven off of a Postgres database. So like built into Retool, there's a Postgres database that you can use as like your primary application data source if you want to, or it's just like kind of a convenient way to have like persistent data associated with your apps.
Hmm.
Um, and if you were to click the checkout button, that actually deletes the book from the database. It's pretty rudimentary how the data side of this works. But then what you can do is the second tab on the bottom is like a manage books tab. And if you tap that, that's what kind of allows you to add new books to the app. So you could manually like type in an ISBN number, which is kind of an identifier for
And that's
books,
the
but
on the back of every book.
not
There's
us.
an ISBN.
Yep, exactly. And what you can do is you can actually tap the second button underneath that to scan ISBN, and then that'll bring up like the phone app or like the
See
camera
if I
app
can do this.
thing.
Like
Yeah, exactly.
coordinating
It's like
two
cameraception.
cameras through a.
This is tricky. Oh, there we
Okay,
go.
so
All
it's
right,
scanned.
sweet. So then like after it finds it, then it just like puts the ISBN into that field. You click find, and then there it is. And then you can, tap that. Oh, look, it even got the right cover. Awesome,
That
awesome.
is pretty dang cool.
Yeah, and
And
then you go
now
back over there, and now it kind of comes up. We
here it
got,
is.
invention of nature. So yeah, so that's kind of like what our app does, and it just is kind of meant to showcase, how you can, do something that would have been like prohibitively expensive and like difficult to do, like if you were just going to build this app from scratch. But you can actually do it in a reasonable amount of time if you build it through Retool. Like I think, in the next like hour or so, we'll see. Like I think we'll actually get pretty far towards actually being able to build out this whole thing. So let's
I'm
uh let's
I'm
do it.
really
Are you
excited to
ready?
give this a shot because what you just showed me, like some of it, like the ability to make a list of books, very confident that I could do that in an hour.
Sure.
getting my phone camera to scan a barcode that then looks up a book and like I don't think you give me a day, I'm gonna get that wrong. So I'm very
Yeah,
excited to
it's
see how far we can get.
yeah, for sure. Let alone like deploying it to an app store or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
uh, well, sweet. So let's do this. Let's create a whole new app. So if you go to that, yeah, create new there. Um, I think there's actually a mobile app option there. And
Okay.
this, by the way, like it is mobile app development is free in Retool, but it is in beta. So there might be some wet paint kind of lying around there. So just as a word of the wise. And we can call it anything we want. Like we can just say library app. That would be great. And now we're kind of in the visual retool editor. And there is some like stuff that's built into the application by default. It kind of
Okay.
has like a 2 tab layout. But within the editor itself, like on the right hand side, there's kind of like an inspector view. So if you use something like an Xcode before, like it's kind of similar. So like as you select different components, you can kind of futz with different options on it. So like that component in the middle is a collection view, and it kind of binds to different data sources and kind of shows different things there. And I think the second tab by default is empty, and
It looks
we'll
like that, yeah.
change that in a little bit. But it actually does on that first tab have sort of like a default like list detail view. So if you click on one of those little rows there, it goes and kind of shows that thing. So what we'll be doing with like the library app is we'll kind of use this basic setup, but
Mhm.
we'll actually swap it out to use some live data.
Nice,
Um,
okay.
and I mentioned before we're going to use a Postgres database for this. And so if you go up into the top left, Jason, and click that Retool logo thing where it like to the left of where it says that, click on resources once. And this is actually going to take you to like all the list of the configured data sources that your application can use. We'll use the Retool database, but if you click create new up on the top right, just we'll actually exit out of it. But yeah, create a new resource.
Oh, okay.
Just real quick, like if you were going to use another kind of database, there's kind of like built-in integrations for lots of different, databases and APIs and what have you.
And
So
there's some
um,
stuff that I find very exciting in here. Like, look, here's some Google Maps, there's some Slack, some Twilio, Stripe. So this isn't just for like data so much. I'm assuming if I can hook into Google Maps, I could do something like, I don't know, figure out where I am and then
mhm.
store a geotag in the database, or like I could have the app send a reminder to Slack when something happened, like, oh, a new book was
Yep,
checked into the library, or I could have it call me, right? Like,
indeed. Yeah,
so this is some pretty like it's cool that this is just here and available to us. And look, we can even do Excel, everyone.
indeed. Yeah. Well, that is one of the more popular ones, as you can
I
imagine.
bet, yeah,
The CSVs and these spreadsheets are still like what the world runs on.
absolutely.
Um, So yeah, so that just as kind of an aside, like we'll be using a Postgres database, but you do have access to all this stuff. So that bit on the top there, the Retool database,
Hmm.
if you click on that, um, that's going to take you to like sort of a graphical interface on top of just what at the end of the day is a plain old Postgres database. You can create tables, you can add new
Gotcha.
columns. Um, so it is like editable through the graphical interface here. So you can just go to town and start like messing with your data directly there if that's
Sure.
convenient. But a lot of the times you'll actually be building like applications and software on top
Yeah,
of the database, like versus editing it directly here.
got it.
um, we could create a new database, but I think like it might be convenient for us to just like use this database so we don't have to like create all the columns and whatnot. But
And
um,
the construction of the database would be we would start with an empty Postgres database. I would need to create a table. I would have to define the fields in the table, and then I would have to load in the data. Is there anything beyond that we would be doing?
No, and you could even like get a taste of it. So if you there's a little plus icon next to that tab, and that just like creates a new table in the
Hmm.
database, and you can like start it from a CSV. So if you have like some existing data that you want to dump in
Gotcha.
there, you can do that. But yeah, then at that point, you'd just kind of be going through and adding, new columns to to each table and stuff like that.
Got it. So yeah, probably not the most interesting thing to watch me do, especially when we've already got a database set up here. So if we were going to set it up, we would just be recreating this exactly. Um,
Yep.
and so I can use this one.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and use that one. And then if we
Okay.
go back to our app, the library app,
Oh,
um,
what have I just done?
oh,
I
I
want
think
to
there's like
edit
an
the app.
editing mode and then there's like a preview mode. So yeah,
Got it. Got it.
perfect.
Okay.
All right. So what we can probably do right away is rather than um, using the default data that's in there, we can probably write a query against that database and start to like pull in the actual data from the database. So
Okay.
down on the left hand side at the bottom left, there's like a section that's labeled code because like that's kind of where the different queries and like API requests are going to live for our
Mm-hmm.
application. And these are going to be like the data sources that we'll actually use for binding against the UI.
Okay.
Um, so that first query, we can select that. It looks like it's selected already. And then it's sometimes convenient. There's a little like expanding button thing like next to where it says run to make it bigger. And that might be kind of nice to give us a little bit of room to write some code here. So,
Okay.
and then there's a resource dropdown. And there you can kind of select from all of your different like configured data sources. And you can see like it kind of shows you the tables and the fields that are available to you.
Very
And you
nice.
can yeah, over there on the left, you can write just a SQL query yourself, or there's like a GUI mode too. But for this, it might be easier to just like kind of directly write the SQL. I don't know if you are a SQL query writer person at
I
all, Jason.
in a past life, I wrote a lot of SQL, and it has been a minute. So maybe remind me. I'm gonna do a select. Do we just want everything or specific things?
Yeah, yeah, I think we could do select star.
Okay.
And then we can say like from, and then it kind of like auto completes the tables for
Just
you.
pretty
And like
excellent.
yeah, so we could, do an order by if we wanted to. It's not strictly necessary per se,
How
but
would you want that done? Like,
so yeah, like order by, I don't know, like maybe title. Title might be the good thing to order by, I think is the name of the field.
okay.
Title and then what, like ascending? Is that what we would want? I think like ASC. Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. So we got ourselves like a little SQL query here that's going to pull us all the data. And if you hit that save, there's like a save button. And now you can kind of see like, all right, we're pulling some stuff back. Here's the order that it's coming in. There's all of our data. Um, so we're making some progress. So if you make this like query editor thing a little smaller, um, then we can go back to actually like doing the UI on top of it.
Okay.
Um, so let's go there. And for that piece, what we want to do is like change the data source that like list view is bound to. So I think like, yeah, what is it? Query one.
Oh,
Um,
let me name this.
and it actually like, yeah, that might be nicer to give it a
We'll go
useful
with
variable
all
name.
books. Okay.
All
So
books.
now we can
Yeah,
go
right on.
to all books, and then we
Yeah,
have the title. Oh, look, and it's already kind of doing this for us, right? So then if I wanted to get the author,
yeah,
we get the author. Max lines is
yeah.
2. Caption image is already pulled in, which is excellent. Okay.
Yeah, it looks at the
Square.
data and kind of tries to guess like based on like what's in there. Like, oh, you probably want to like shove a .png string like into this field and stuff like that.
Yeah. Pretty clever that just worked. And then here, actually, let me go back and
The-
make sure that is this everything we need? Do we need more?
no, I think that's pretty good actually. So yeah, if you click on one of like on one of the rows, that let's see if we can't figure out how to make that image go on there because that might not be the right one. So if you click on actually on the far left hand side of the screen, there's like a components view, so you can kind of like select which one.
Uh-huh.
Um, and this might not be exactly what we want, but there is like a reference to like the name of that collection, dot selected
Hmm.
item. And then I think we might want a different property there.
We want
I think it's like,
cover image.
yeah, cover underscore image. I think that might have been like what it was set to by default. And then we can do some like different stuff with the image. Like we can kind of mess with the aspect ratio and like whether or not we want it to cover or fill and, stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So like, yeah, contain is, that's probably what we're after. Um, and yeah, and then the other component that's on this detail view is a like key value thing. It's basically just a way to like very quickly show tabular data. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, as you're kind of messing around with the different things, you can give that like a nicer human readable you know name. You can also like show or hide different columns as well. There, like if you hover over one in the list on the far right, there's the
Oh
little
yeah, we can
eyeballs.
just drop it right on
So
out.
yeah, you can like change the order. You can kind of drag them around and pop one up a little higher up or what have you. Um, Sweet. And yeah, so like this is just kind of a detail view that we can customize with whatever else we think would be useful. And I think like as we keep like adding to it, eventually we'll like throw a button down on the bottom that will like check out the book. I think is
Hmm.
one of the features we'll get to. Um, but yeah, like kind of already we're sort of cooking a little bit. Like we're getting a list of books. We're able to do a detail view, making
Yeah.
some progress a little bit at this
I
point.
mean, like, the creation of a database is not something to be kind of sniffed at. So the fact that that was ready for us is definitely something to like keep in mind when we talk about how fast this went. But the fact that we went from a SQL query to data on screen this quickly is pretty dang cool.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, and like that's certainly something that'll be the case like in web apps too, where as you're pulling in tables or like other
Hmm.
types of UI components that are pretty common, doing that like data binding piece it ends up being not very painful. Like where it's using Redux under the covers to like kind of manage the like state and let you bind to different properties and queries and what have you, but yeah, it ends up being pretty nice. And one thing that you just picked up right away is there's also this like double curly brace sort of binding syntax. So
Hmm.
like if you click on the list thing itself, you can see like on the right we have like item.title and item.author, and the double curly braces let you kind of reference any like object that is currently like within the global scope. Um, so like that all books query is like a global variable that you can
Hmm.
sort of address within the double curly braces there. So
Yeah.
that's where a lot of like the JavaScripty statement stuff happens.
So in the Zero Cosmos is asking, are the styles are styles customizable beyond kind of what's in the UI here? Because it looks like there's some settings, which is great. But if I wanted to, what was the example? Setting padding. Like if I wanted to make these way taller using padding, could I just jump in here and do something wild like that?
With the mobile product, like the mobile product is not quite as customizable as like the web side of
Hmm.
things as yet. So there isn't a ton that you can do beyond what is in the customization options there.
Okay.
But like that's just kind of a thing that usually, sees a fair amount of iteration is like changing padding and stuff like that. On the web app side, which has been around for a couple years longer than the mobile side, you can do like custom CSS classes and kind of go pretty hog wild as you
Gotcha.
prefer with that stuff.
Okay. Cool. All right. So we've got a list of books. We have the ability to click into one of the books and see its details. I'm pretty happy about all of that. Um, so there are a couple things that I kind of see immediately, like I need to edit this screen so we can say like book inventory, and
Mhm.
then like on the screen too. This one is the one we have to still build. So on this one, I want to be able to Well, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the checkout functionality, or do you want to start with adding books?
Let's add a book because that'll kind of give us like a sea of our CRUD app, which might be kind of nice to go through and do. So
Okay.
yeah, so like yeah, the that bit up at the top, that is actually like more of a variable name than a
This
like
is the one that I
human
want.
readable. Yeah, just as an FYI. But like the top thing, like yeah, the lets you just like specify in camel case and like a different sort of variable name for it. Um, cool. Oh, it kind of zapped you out of it. That's not very cool. But yeah, if you go to that one, sweet. Now, if we want to like start adding some stuff to this UI, like over on the
Mhm.
left, there's components. So yeah, so we would click that plus button,
And
and
the
then
the
there's sort
nice
of a
thing about
palette.
this is, like, what I'm finding is that I'm a half step ahead of you on some of these because I can move my mouse faster than you can get through a sentence, and I always find that that's a good sign for whether or not something is intuitive, is if I'm where I should be as you're explaining where I should go next. So, like, I was
That
like,
is a
"Oh,
good sign.
components, that's what I need." So
Well,
so
good.
let's
I'm
see.
glad we're finding it. So I think the thing we probably want is like a text input field. So that's kind of how I manage the ISBN number
An ISBN
previously.
is
So
gonna be all numeric, right? So should I choose a number input, or do I want a text?
I think we want a text because I think there are some oddball like cases where there's some random letters thrown in there, like with a few different books. So I think that's
Gotcha.
probably what we want.
Okay. So let's go with
And
ISBN input. Um,
totally. And then we could do placeholder stuff for label, yeah, for ISBN. Sweet. And
okay.
then I think we also did a button for like actually, firing off an API request to get the data about a book like by ISBN.
Mhm.
Um, so we could probably do that. And here, I'm gonna see if I can't just drop you a link real quick in the chat because the API that I use for this is openlibrary.org. And
Mhm.
you could probably very easily find that yourself too. But it's a free and like unauthenticated API that allows you to kind of search for book metadata by like ISBN other number or other identifiers. And eventually, we'll kind of need to, use this API to grab some data
Mhm.
about the books. Like once, and I think we're kind of at that point now because we have like our text field, like we have our button that theoretically would, search for the data.
Mhm.
Um, so I think if you scroll down a bit, you're going to be looking for let's see, the book API is like the
Book or
one I think that
ISBN?
I think we actually want the book API because
Oh,
that
okay.
the ISBN one doesn't like give us all of the data we want. Like it doesn't give
Mm.
us like cover images and stuff like that. So that's just kind of a random detail of this API. But yeah, like if you look at that, like we're starting to see the different you know, data that you can get back.
Mhm.
Um, so if we go to like I think like where it says yeah, anything like that, we can look
So
at some of
here's
these
okay. So here's the
examples.
book. The book API is generic and flexible. So we want to search API/books, and then we do bib keys like that.
Yep, that whole situation is kinda what we want, and then
Okay.
we'll ultimately, like, end up passing a format parameter to that too and ask for JSON instead of the, like, JavaScript
Is
thing.
it like full spelled
That
out format?
yeah, format equals, JSON, that's right.
Okay.
And then, yeah, let's kinda start there. Yeah, sure, so that's given us a
Okay.
little bit of stuff,
We're
and then I
missing.
think there's
Yeah.
yeah, there's another parameter too here. I'm trying to remember what it
Let's
was,
see.
but I
Format
think
option.
like there's it's a little bit obtuse, but it's called like JCMD. Uh, and that parameter, yeah, if we set that equal to, I think it's
Okay.
data, then that gives us like more stuff. Like
JCMD equals data.
JSCMD. I think I led you astray
ASCMD.
there. Very Yeah, so
Aha.
now we're cooking. That is the one we want, because that
Okay,
kind of
so we get a
gives us our
title, we get the
title.
author, we get what else did we need? We have a where are our cover images? Subjects,
Yeah, I think
published
like there's like a
dates.
covers array or something. Like if you really go down there,
Holy buckets.
um, yeah, this I think this is Tom Sawyer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this has been printed a few times. So yeah, we
Cover.
got like a cover thing, and we kind of got like small, medium, and large
Perfect. Okay.
sort of images there.
So then we can
So
take
that is
this
the guy we want.
out, move into here, and if I go into my, where am I? Here. I have two of these open. I'm going to close one of them. And I want my lookup by ISBN to do something. And the thing that I
Yes.
want it to do, event handler, that feels like where I need to go.
Yeah, that eventually I think is where we need to go. But like what that's going to call is probably another query. So like we have that
Oh, I
all
got you.
books query like down in the left.
Uh-huh.
And instead of like a SQL query, we're going to do like a REST API request. So if we do
Oh,
plus and do like a resource query,
resource query.
and then
And
instead of that, like we'll probably just go, yeah, REST query, I think is what it's called. And now we kind of have like a postman-ish kind of interface where you can kind of set up um, these different bits. So, oh, you're already beating me to it. So you're already like dynamically, popping in
that's,
the values of those
this is
different
why I
things.
name my fields.
Yep,
Came right
exactly.
to me. Okay, so now if I do it this way, we get our field dynamically in. Okay.
Yes.
And that's all the data that we
Kind of
want.
have all that going on. And then
Okay.
it's kind of hiding in the UI as it is right now, but there's like a blue save button that's just like kind
Oh
of
yeah, let me
off
make,
screen.
I have my screen kind of set up small, and I think I saved that when I tried to make it bigger. Okay. So
Yeah.
this is here, and then if I run this, it's gonna fail because there's no book. Like we don't have an ISBN input value.
Yes. So we probably want to like grab one of those at some point.
Yeah,
So
let me
like,
go here and we'll grab this one and we'll get the
oh, smart. Yeah. Just
ISBN.
get is that copyable or is that
You gonna let me just
annoyingly
copy
not
this?
copyable? I don't know if it's like selectable in this UI. I popped one in the chat too. If you just want like a quick,
Oh,
like
perfect.
one you can just use.
Yep, just gonna grab that. That's easier. So here we go. I'm gonna do one of these. Put this in there. And look, I think it did it.
Yeah, it kind of did the thing. So you can see,
That.
yeah, so it's kind of coming back. So we got the data coming back from the API, which is great.
Okay.
And now what we can do is we can set up that button.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can make that smaller. And then you can kind of click on that button that we put in, like the get by ISBN. Or yeah, also definitely renaming queries to helpful things. Absolutely a good idea.
Okay, so we have a thing to get the book from the library API. And now
Yep.
I want this button to call that.
To like do that. Yes. And that's
And
going to be
it's
like control
pre-filled for me, which
query.
is great.
Yeah, so it just kind of guesses like the last query that you had set up. So that's cool. And then yeah, there's other stuff you can do. You can like run a script, just kind of lets you do arbitrary JavaScript, and you can control different queries. There's also like kind of a weirdly named JavaScript query. So like down in the bottom left, you could create a JavaScript query, and that's just going to be like a chunk of JavaScript code that would run and do whatever it is you want it to do.
So like
Um,
one example of how I might use that is like if I wanted to generate a slug from a book title, I could have a JavaScript query that would just really quickly do the replacement of like spaces with hyphens, lowercase, and then that way that would be my query, but I don't have to do. Are there other ways that you would do
yeah,
that, or is that the way that you would consider that?
there's yeah, you could do it with a query. There's actually another thing that in there called a transformer, and that's a
Oh,
little bit
nice.
like a computed property in Vue.js, if that's a thing you've messed around with before.
So
But
you
it's
would say that
essentially like
it's more than meets the eye.
I would say that it's more than meets the eye. Perhaps a property in disguise. But the yeah, Robertables is right. We should stop it right now. so we got yeah, so the transformer you could use to do that. And then the other thing like that I did in like my initial implementation is I actually transformed the data that came back from the API because it comes in kind of a weird format. Like it's instead of like being an array, like the JSON structure that you get back, it like is keyed by ISBN number, like in kind of that goofy
Right, right,
format that you
right.
see there. So if we want to actually like bind to the this value,
Mhm.
um, it's kind of it might be useful to like transform this value like when we get it back. So if you close that like thing out that has the JSON in it, or like make the interface bigger, one of the two, and just kind of scroll down, there's that thing called a transformer. And if you enable that, so you get this like data variable that's in scope for this little chunk of JavaScript code.
Mhm.
And there you can actually like do a little bit of munging on the data that comes back from this API request, like kind of like a middleware function that sort of runs before the data gets passed back to your application.
Got it.
So the way that I did this was I used like object.entries to like grab the first like sort of property of that data object. So yeah, I did like object.entries and then passed it that data. And then so the way that that works is like we get the zeroth, one because we want the first thing. And then the way that data is structured, there's that returns like an array with two elements in it. The first element is the key of the object, and the second is the actual value. So we actually want sub one of that. Exactly. Yeah, you're doing it. And then that's actually gives us what we I think really want, which is the contents of the
The book
actual,
data, yeah.
yeah, the book data. So if you save and run that, then you can see like, okay, like now we just have like an object that has like all the stuff that we want.
Mhm. Great.
So, okay, sweet. So we have a button. It's doing the thing. And now I think we need like a screen that shows the data like after we get that after we get that going. So
Mhm.
I think up on the top left, we want to do like a new screen, and we
Okay.
could call that like book details or what have you.
Okay.
And now we should like maybe build ourselves like a little like detail view for the book. I
Okay.
think.
Now, if I wanted to say, like, here, we already have this, can I just copy this over?
Maybe that's a good question. I don't know if I've tried to do that. It could be
Or I
a
guess
thing.
we
Like
can,
in
you know what? Let's learn how to do it the long way because I would like to see how all this works. So I'm just going to grab this really quick, and I grabbed an image because I want to show the book cover. And to do
yep.
that, I want the source to be not a random image, but instead one of these. And I want my book library cover image, or I guess it's going to be image covers.
Yeah, covers, I
And
think.
we can use the large one. Look at that. Okay.
Great.
And then we want it to be tall and we want it to fit.
Yeah, right on.
Look at me
Definitely.
go.
Yeah, I know. You are doing it.
You
You
didn't know it
I
today, chat.
very
I
little
didn't know it either, but I'm a mobile developer.
it turns out. Congratulations. You should ask for a raise.
And
Uh
then the
being
key
able
value is
multi
the one that let us do the just drop in some data. Or
Yeah, yeah, you could do key value. The other thing you can do is that there's a text component that you can just like drop random strings of text in. So like you could pull that in, and then it has some like basic template text, but you can sort of change that to be whatever you would like, using a combination of a string literal, and then you can double curly brace in like dynamic data as well. So like if
got
you want to
it.
do like the author or something, you can,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
or
Here we go.
title.
The
Yeah, so we got the data, we got the title.
title.
Sweet.
Okay. Maybe like does all or nothing on that. Okay, so I would I would need to play with this a little bit to figure out exactly what we're doing, but I'm pretty okay with this. And then I guess we could do something like, let's add the ISBN, and that would be the data dot
I think it's like identifiers. There's like an object, and then
identifiers.
there's, and this is tricky because like this data can be a little messy because like not all books have every kind of identifier, like, and there's like a few different versions of ISBN numbers as well.
Mm,
Um, so the search is pretty flexible and it kind of searches all the different identifiers, but displaying it here can sometimes be a little gnarly. But
okay.
that works pretty much fine.
This will be okay
Um,
for today because all the books that I have, I believe, are ISBN 13. So
mhm.
that, well, find out, I guess. Um,
Yeah,
but I believe this should work for us, and I feel like I'm happy enough with this. So I think,
sure.
and then we'll just have this. We'll just mark it as done when we're done, or
Um, yeah, we can do that. Like if we go back to actually that like add a book, like kind of we actually want to kind of set this up as like a stack of views. So like after we get one of these books back,
right?
like we would actually like ideally want to push like into a detail view, I think.
Okay.
And the way that we would do that, and I guess there's a few ways you can do it, but on that get book from API like query thing, there are event handlers for like success and failure and stuff like that. And we'd probably want to like, yeah, we might want to like instead of control a query, we would like want to go to like do a navigation. I think that's what we want. And then navigate to screen, and we could say, book data screen, and then debounce would prevent us from spamming it and stuff like that. But that's probably fine as is. Um,
Okay.
so now if you hit like save and run,
It opens
then
up.
that kind of like does that thing. So it'll do the query and then it kind of pushes and gives us like an automatic back button
You want to throw me
situation there
another
too.
ISBN, and I'll try it with a different one too.
Yeah, let me give that a shot. Where is another one? Let's go with this is one of the ones I was testing with earlier. Um, Open Library is chugging a little bit. Pardon me.
No
All
worries.
right, I got one, and we'll pop it into the chat there, so you
All
can
right, so
try
pulling
that one.
in a new book. Okay, and as
Yes,
soon as we put it in, it runs and gives us the details, and we can come on back. Okay, so that's great.
sweet.
So the thing that we didn't do here is I don't think we're adding this to our library yet. Right now we're just looking it up and displaying
Yes.
it. So I think what I need is a button that's like add to library.
Yep. Exactly right. So we
Okay, so
can
I want a
pop
button,
in.
and I
We
want
do
this
indeed.
button to say add to library. All right.
Yep.
And then do I need to make a query first?
Yep, you are getting the hang of it.
All
So
right.
this time we're going to do like a SQL query that's going to do like an insert. So we'll go like up to our like Retool database, and for like the inserts, like I find it's actually kind of easier to not do a SQL query directly. So there's like
Okay.
a SQL mode thing that's up just above that text box, and you can choose it to be like a GUI mode, and then this kind of lets you like
Oh, nice.
set up so you don't have to necessarily like set up or like write the query directly. You certainly can. Like there you
I'm
can absolutely write an insert, but
I'm guessing I'm gonna do something called an upsert because I want to not have to, like, if I scan the same book twice, I don't want an error. I just would want it to like re update the book.
yeah, I think that would
Yeah.
work. I think the way that I set it up in the demo, just in case there's like some, if folks check it out later, I just added a new one every time to support like multiple copies of the books
Oh, so we can
in the
it
library.
won't, yeah, because we didn't mark ISBN as the ID, so it doesn't matter. That's fine. Okay, so then we're going to insert a record, and it's going to give us these will be auto-generated, I'm guessing.
That's right.
ISBN is going to be the ISBN input value. The title would be, oops, I have a new keyboard and I haven't moved the keycaps around, so things,
Oh,
the keycaps say things that they don't do, so when I look at my hands, I get in trouble. And let's see, so we have the title is going to be the title. Remind me what else
right
we need
on.
here. The title,
I think we
author,
need
and
the
cover image.
author. Yes, that's right.
Authors
I think
dot.
authors is, yeah, I think that's an array. So name.
Okay. I love the autocomplete. Makes that way less complicated for me. Grab out the
Yes.
data,
Okay. So,
covers, and
and
we want
then
the large.
I think the large one, because the large one is still actually pretty small in terms of resolution.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That should do it, right?
I think that's all the stuff we want. Yeah. So I think, yeah, if we save that, and
I'd
then,
like
yeah,
to
I think, yeah,
rename
maybe
this.
rename that to like, insert book or what have you.
Okay.
And then, yeah, for our button there, we could set up an event handler, control query, insert the thing, trigger the thing, and that would add that book to the library.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we wanted, we could also like set up a success handler for that insert book query that would kind of like push us back to the other screen. So
Okay.
like we could do a navigation thing. So like navigate to screen, and then yeah,
Screen
what did
one
we
is
call it?
our book inventory.
We could do that. Yeah, that could be a thing. Or we could just go like trigger a back, like to go like that's another thing that we could do since we're like in a state where we're in like a detail view. So like yeah, we could just go back. I think is
That'd put
just
us
like
on the insert a book, right?
I think it would bring us back to that screen with the ISBN number search thing.
Okay.
Is if we did a back there,
All right. And so I don't think there's really a
which
wrong
may or may
answer
not
on
be.
this. I think that's
Yeah,
more of
exactly. I
like
think we can do
the
whatever we
UX
want.
team will have opinions, but neither one is really right or wrong. It's more of like, what is a user going to want to do? Are they going to want to add a bunch of books in succession, or are they going to want to add a book and then
Mhm.
see that it got added?
Yeah, that's right. I think that there's possibly multiple right answers for how we want to do that. Yeah, so I think that's actually doing the thing. I bet if we click that button, it will actually add a book to the library
And
and
it
kind of
comes
brings us
back.
back.
We come back
And
out,
then
and
I think
do I need to rerun
I
the
think what we
query?
haven't done yet, yeah, I think what we haven't
Got to
like sort of
rerun the query.
instrumented yet is like a refresh thing where like there's actually on the screen there are events that you can subscribe to as well. So like
Okay.
I think where it says like screen events, there's like a show or something along those lines. So if we do
Oh,
like
here. Screen
yeah,
events.
yeah, over on the right. And then I think there's like a yeah, on visible, I think would be the one. And then we could do like that all books query again and just like rerun it to
Got it.
get the latest list if we
Okay.
were so inclined.
Okay.
So if
So
we like lean
then
back here and hit this.
let's see. Time checking, we got about 15, 20 minutes left. So our remaining checkbox items here are to add the scanner, which I think we should do that first in case we run out of time. And then
Yeah.
checking out a book, which would delete it.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, let's
Okay.
do the scanner. I agree. I think that would be a fun one to do next.
Okay.
So
So
for
I
that, that's going to
know
be a
I need
new
another button at least, so we can look up.
yeah. So to throw a monkey wrench a little bit, the scanner thing actually comes with its own button. Like you actually would
Oh,
add
interesting.
that to
Okay.
the yes. So yeah, you can go ahead and delete that little guy. And then yeah, if you do like a scanner, like yeah, you can search for it too. So you can do a scanner.
Okay.
And then that when you hit that, that automatically like kind of brings up the camera for you. Um,
Oh,
and it doesn't
cool.
actually work in the desktop
Got
thing.
it.
Like it doesn't
Okay.
actually zap the thing, but it sort of works, so you can see what the UI experience is.
Right.
But yeah, so that will like allow you to do the scanner, and then you can like there's a data attribute of that scanner button then that is an array of items like that is the barcode that you scan. In our case, like if we scan the back of a book, like it'll be an array of ISBN numbers that it gives
Mm.
us back. Um, and the way that I did it was I actually like I when the scan was complete, I just like updated the value of that text field with whatever the scanned value was. So yeah, so add an event handler for capture, and then we can yeah, either control component, I think is one way to do it. There's definitely like a few ways, and we could say like whatever that text is and set the value equal to, and that has to be a dynamic thing. So we're going to do the curly braces, and then we're going to like grab our scanner thing. Awesome. And then that has a data attribute to it, which is an array. And it is possible to get multiple barcodes, but like
Hmm.
I just kind of selected the first one so we could do like data sub zero.
Oh, did that. 0.
Sweet. Which is undefined at the moment. But I mean, theoretically, this actually looks like it would work. So if you hit the X button on that, yeah, or just like scan book,
Okay.
cool. And now, like, this is where we kind of get to see what something that's a little neat about the Retool app is like this app is now just like ready to use on your phone. So if you want to
Wait, it's
switch
already on
over
my
to like
phone?
it will be like when you load it up.
Okay. So let's get it
So like,
open. Home.
and then yeah, so you just
Okay.
refresh it, and now like we had the completed version. Now like there's the work
On
in
here.
progress version called
Okay.
library app. That's the one that you've been building. And
Try to
then
make this a
like
little
that's
easier to
our
see. Okay, so
that's
this
Jeff.
is the book that
Yep.
we've been making. So then I can go add a book, and
Yep.
let's grab one of these. So I'm gonna grab. Let me get this out of the way. This is Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. If you haven't tried it, it is an absolutely stellar cookbook, and they also made it into a TV
Amazing.
show. So let's. I'm gonna hit the scan ISBN. Okay.
Yep. And then if we zap that, that gives us the thing. And
Look
then,
at it
yeah,
go.
there it is.
Add to
And then
library,
if we add that to library,
and here it
and then
is.
there's the salt, acid, fat. Yeah, I think we're
That
doing
is
it.
freaking cool that just works that quickly. Um, I am honestly like continually impressed by how much we're capable of doing with modern tools like this. Um, it is just stuff that when I first started working on the web felt so far out of reach. And then folks come on the show and they show me things like this, and I'm continually blown away that I'm like, oh, so I can do that. Like I may be just a web developer, but I just built a freaking mobile app that uses the camera to scan a barcode, which none of those things fit into my definition of my skill set, but it just works, right? And there's so many tools and APIs that make this stuff possible. So we really can like you don't have to be an expert in everything. I don't need to know how phone access hardware works. I don't need to know how ISBNs work. I just need to know that there's a tool out there that figured it out for me so that I can go plug those things together.
Yeah,
Dang it,
right
that's
on.
cool.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. The like so the bread and butter for Retool is certainly like internal tools and business apps like we've been talking about. But like how I sort of use it is it's sort of like my way to build the little application that I never would have had time to build otherwise. So I use it for like dumb stuff all the time. Like I've built my own custom like D&D like tabletop role playing game tools like on top
Mhm.
of Retool as well. So it ends up being really fun for just like prototyping, putting stuff together. Like in and it makes like sort of the ROI so much faster. So like you can just build like little apps and not have to worry about like, oh, this is going to take me 40 hours to build this little CRUD app. In Retool, like you can just do it in like 30 minutes or whatever.
That's the thing that I think is really important is like there's a time and a place to go extremely bespoke and to really focus on all the details and get it exactly right and
Mm,
on brand and
absolutely.
all the things that matter. And there are so many cases where it's not the right choice, where
Yep.
you need everybody on your team to have the ability to like check in or manage inventory or look at a dashboard. And like the branding is nice, but in so many cases that stuff becomes a distraction where you're trying to, you know, get something that isn't visible externally to adhere to external branding guidelines instead of building value, you know? And so
Hmm.
getting into these places where you can take something like this little app that we built in, you know, what we spent less than an hour on this. And we were able to get the Retool app from the App Store, and we get this list of apps that we've built. We pop in, and then let's grab another one. So this is a cookbook that I love. It's from a restaurant in Portland called Ox, called Around the Fire.
Mm.
So let's scan in Around the Fire. I'm going to add a book. Get my arm over my arm here. We're going to scan the ISBN, and we'll bring this.
Oh,
Oh wait, I need to go this way, and then this needs to go
cam
this way.
reception has been tough.
It
Like,
is
there we go.
really challenging.
Nice.
Okay, so there it goes. And now this one doesn't have a cover in the library apparently, but it did find the book.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. OpenAPI doesn't have all, or Open Library doesn't have all the cover images per se,
but it found it.
it
You
did
know,
find it.
that's
Yeah.
here's Around the Fire with its details, and this is, you know, it's a good cookbook. We can do the same thing for you know what? Why don't we add one more just so I can plug my friend Sarah's book? This is the Engineering Management for the Rest of Us. It is an absolutely stellar book by Sarah Drasner, and we are going to flip this thing over, and I'm going to get ISBN in the right place. And there it is. It found it.
Yeah. Did
Another one
find
that's
it.
we don't
The
have
cover art's
the
so good. I feel like I should submit that to the
I
Open
know.
Library API. Yeah.
But then there it is. We've got the book in there. It's you know, it's all working. Does
Yeah.
what we want. So this is some pretty incredible stuff that in the span of, you know, 45 minutes of active dev time, we just put together a freaking app that lives on my phone that interacts with the real world. That's not a thing that I would have guessed I was going to be able to do in 45 minutes. I would have guessed that would take me a couple weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think you started to hit on it, which is that like if you are building an app for like your library staff or your field folks, like it's okay that like they access it through the Retool app and it's maybe not like exactly branded at the precise way that you wanted it, but like speed and utility is actually what you care about when you're like in these types of use cases. So it
Hmm.
ends up being really slick in those types of cases.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's a question about iPad support. So if we're doing the mobile, can I just fire this up on my iPad?
I actually think that the iPad support isn't ready as yet. I think they are working on it, and before it exits beta, it should support the iPad, but I don't think it'll actually work all the like, I think it'll work, but in, like, kind of a weird compatibility mode
Got
situation.
it. So you'd be able to use it. It's just not going to be as beautiful as you want it to be on an iPad.
Yes, and
Which
I think,
again,
like, there's some UI work. Yeah.
not what we're worried about for an internal app. We're worried about productivity. So, you know, but yeah. So again, it's a beta tool, but for a beta tool, I'm kind of continually impressed by what this stuff unlocks for us. So we've got about 5 minutes of active dev time left. You think we can delete books or check books out?
I think we can delete books. I think we got it. This one's
All right, let's do it.
pretty straightforward. So, yeah, let's go in there, and then if we click on one of those, that'll bring us to like our detail screen. And then, yeah, we can throw a button down.
Okay.
And yeah, let's say checkout. Perfect.
Spaces in there. Okay. And then our interaction, we want an event handler. It's going to be a control query. I don't have one yet, so I need to build it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. But yeah, you are already a pro. So you're rocking and rolling. You got your Retool database. You can do the GUI mode, and yeah, I think
I think I want to, just because it's going to be faster for me.
yeah,
And we want
agree.
to filter by ID equals.
And then I think in
Is
this
this just
case
going to
we
be
want
here?
like that collection view current item thing. Yeah, so
Collection view.
and I think like current item is a pointer at the JavaScript object that we're well, I think it's
what does it have in here? It says
yeah.
so it's, is it .data maybe? Here's the stuff. Where is this living? This is living in
Yeah,
data.
I don't know if it's data. I could have sworn there was like a uh, current item here. Let me look myself here. So if there's not a current item, selected item. I led you astray. It's not current item. It's selected item.
Okay, so it's collection view selected item.
Yep. And then that's like
ISBN.
that JavaScript object. Or yeah, I think ISBN would work. We could also use like the actual database identifier. So like
Oh, right,
if we
because
do
we
have
have
multiple
that.
copies, yeah.
Okay, so
So yeah,
that should do it. And then this should cause me to navigate to the homepage.
yeah, we could directly navigate to it. I think like back also might be what we want, like because like we will have drilled down to one level of navigation. So I think you can
Okay.
just say like navigation method back, and then that is going to pop this view off the stack. Cool. So yeah, if we close that,
then I'm going to do this on the phone because that is freaking cool. So if I get in here,
I think we actually might have one more step too, though, like because
okay.
I think the button was set up to do we didn't like connect the button to the query. I think is
you're right. You're right. So we need to check out event. I didn't rename the query. Okay. So good. Okay.
We're also like looking at your hand, which is also fine. But
right.
if you want to show,
so okay, I use the click here, and I did a control query on the button.
Control query.
Went to query 4 because I forgot to rename this this query that deletes, and I can actually do that real quick. Okay, so we'll delete the book, which means that over here we are. Oh, did I just do it?
Maybe.
And then we delete the book. So
yes, that's right.
Then that's good. We're good.
Yes, I think so. I think we can go to the thing.
Try the thing. So we're going into the library app, and I have a book. Let's do Get a Wrinkle in Time, and I'm going to apparently
I think that is a thing they're working on too. Like you to give you like a refresh function without having to go back out. But
okay, so here's our book. I'm going to check it out, and there it is.
I think it's gone. I think we did the thing.
So that is really freaking cool. Like we were able to do a ton here with a nice intuitive API. It did what I wanted. And like the database that we brought in was one that was kind of set up custom, but this could be my production database that like if I wanted to have a super admin interface or something where I get a list of all my client sites and I could go in and change their status from like active to suspended or whatever it was. I can go grab all those details and I can just build that out in here. I can have my list of users and change their subscription status, and that stuff is just it's the sort of thing that I would look at and I would go, well, we don't have time for that. we got to keep building these features. We don't have time to build this dashboard. Everybody just use the command line, and that's a terrible idea. But it looks like if we can carve out an hour, we can build an internal app that'll let us do these sorts of things. And like I can carve out an hour. I can make that work.
Yeah, for sure. And that is definitely like the kind of the promise of something like Retool, where like because it pushes sort of the cost of
Right.
buildings like software so low, you can just build way more of it than you could otherwise. Like building a Retool app is about as hard as like arranging a keynote presentation. So like
Right.
you can build an app for kind of everything. And it's kind of funny, like Retool. Has like really taken that to heart. There's like hundreds of like little retool apps that we use internally every day that just like do everything. Where
Hmm.
like you might have used a jank spreadsheet workflow before. We just kind of like build a little bit of software that does the same thing. So it ends up being really useful for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, extremely handy. All right, so I think I'm gonna call that a great stopping point for us. We were able to build a full featured, like actually full featured. We have the ability to create and remove books from this inventory app, which is the function it was intended to fulfill. We could add lots and
Mhm.
lots of more features if we wanted to, but as far as my use case, this is exactly what I want. I want to know what books I have, and I want them to leave my inventory when I don't have them anymore. So this is great.
Yeah.
For folks
Yeah.
who want
Awesome.
to learn more, where should they go?
You can definitely sign up for free at retool.com. So if you want to build an app like the one that we just saw, that would be great. Each of these applications that you build in Retool can actually, I mentioned before, like it can be serialized to JSON.
Mhm.
So like I'll actually uh, be doing that. Like I'll tweet from the Retool account like a link to a gist that actually has the JSON for a completed version of this application. So if folks want to, follow Retool or follow me on Twitter, I'll actually link out a gist to like the completed version of the app. Um, but yeah, it's something that you can try today. Everybody, the mobile product's in public beta today, so we would love it if you would check it out and give us feedback on it.
So a couple questions just came in the chat that I think are good ones. Um, is it possible to export this to Xcode to kind of continue building the app once you've started it?
Um, I believe that you can export an Xcode project, but I don't think it would be sort of usable, editable, like using a standard like Xcode environment. Because like under the
Okay.
covers, we're actually using React Native. So like React Native is the actual thing that is generating the app. Um, that the answer to that question may actually change like in the future, but today
Okay.
it's not necessarily possible to do that.
Okay. And then the second question is it possible to take this app and go the rest of the way, publish it on the App Store as a standalone app that's not using Retool?
Yeah, definitely. You can like sort of white label the Retool application and do a bit of customization. So you can, have your own icon and kind of create an experience around your app specifically. So that is definitely a thing you can do.
Got it. Excellent. Well, Kevin, this was a massive success. I had so much fun. I love anytime I get to do something that I've never done before, like scanning something with my phone. I know that's probably not a big deal to folks who do this stuff all the time, but damn it, that's cool. Um,
It was fun for me. I mean, I was in a similar boat. Like as a web developer, it's not something you expect to be able to do. So it was super
yeah,
fun to build. And you did
it's
an excellent job, by the way. I think we got to, if we could give it up for Jason, we would be giving it up for Jason right now over the internet.
here. Let
You
me let
figured
me
it out. You
clap
did a
for
great job.
myself.
Do we have a soundboard? There we go. There we go. Nice. Lovely.
Okay.
Awesome.
But so let me do a quick shout out to Retool, who took the time to sponsor this episode. Thank you very much. To Amanda from White Coat Captioning, who's been doing the live captioning all day. Thank you very much, Amanda. And that is made possible through the support of our sponsors, Netlify, NX, New Relic, and Pluralsight, all kicking in to make this show more accessible and enabling all the other shenanigans that we do here. I already dropped a link to Kevin's Twitter, but make sure you go and give a follow. And while you're checking out things on the site, go look at the schedule. We've got an absolutely incredible schedule coming up. Really, really excited for everybody coming through. Don't have time to walk
Mm.
through them, but go read this and please do subscribe on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all the places. Get my newsletter because there's a lot of good stuff coming, and I want to make sure you don't miss any of it because it's a lot of fun. Kevin, any
Awesome.
parting words before we wrap this thing up?
No, it was super fun. It's always, I'd never gets old to see somebody discover something that they didn't know that they could do. So thanks for letting me hang out with you to be a part of that moment. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a blast. Thank you all very much. We're going to go find somebody to raid, and we will see you next time.